I'm Patty Ann Brown, and you are in the strategy room. Mitt Romney is not running again for president, but the former Massachusetts governor is asserting himself as one of the top leaders in the Republican Party. 2016 candidates are looking to connect with Romney in hopes of tapping into his extensive political network. This is now considered crucial in a highly competitive primary. So here now with reaction, Basil Smikle Jr., executive director with the New York State Democratic Party, and Liz Peek, columnist with the Fiscal Times. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
So the political paper The Hill says that Romney is aiming for a role as the Republican kingmaker. Basil, do you see that happening?
I don't see it happening if he's not putting a lot of money into into people's operations. Yes, he can go around the country and campaign for Republican candidates, but he has not been in office in quite a while. He lost his 2012 bid, so he needs a platform upon which to do this. There could be a financial one. Is there also a political one? But the other thing is that his brand of republicanism, in my mind, that sort of Rockefeller Northeast Republican, is gone. That sort of died off. And you even have Pataki in this race now, and he's sort of part of that Northeast Republican strain of the party. But I don't see that has an appeal to the grassroots in other parts of the country. So I don't know how successful he'll be.
You know, Liz, as he pointed out, Romney did lose his last campaign, and a lot of people said he was through after that. But there has been a sea change. You know, for example, he was mocked during his campaign for saying Russia is America's number one geopolitical foe. And now people are saying, you know, maybe he was onto something there. Do you see his credibility on the rise?
Oh, well, I think with President Obama's mishaps in international relations, for sure. Look, Mitt Romney's my favorite candidate in this current cycle. Why? Because he got in the race and then he got out. He got out because he went around and took the soundings of various senior Republican moneymakers and money givers, and he realized he wasn't going to get the backing, so he got out. Good for him, because we need a bunch of other people to do the same thing. But I think Basil's right. A lot of it will be about the money. Interestingly, his campaign chair, Woody Johnson, is now Jeb Bush's campaign chair, which I find a little disheartening, to be honest, because having been to some events where he was sort of the intro speaker, he can deflate a room faster than Tom Brady can deflate a football. But nonetheless, that's where the money's coming from. So yes, he'll have some say because it's still his people, and a lot of people will be who are very tight with Romney will be tight with Jeb Bush if he's the candidate that's going to work. But that's also kind of to what Basil was talking about. Romney is not going to have much to tell Ted Cruz or Rand Paul, Marco Rubio even. They probably will keep him somewhat at arm's length because just as conservatives are kind of skeptical about Jeb Bush still, they're certainly not in love with Mitt Romney, even though he has proved right on a bunch of issues.
You know, but he's also made some mistakes, Basil, and he says that's one of the main benefits that he can bring to this current crop of candidates is he wants them to learn from his mistakes. What would you say are the biggest, and what should he be advising the current crop? Not that you want to advise the
You know, actually, what I think was his biggest mistake is something that I think the Republicans he would be advising wouldn't agree with, which is that he was pulled too far to the right in his own primary in order to get out of it. As I said before, I think he's enough of a moderate Republican that he could appeal to independents and even some Democrats in the general. He's a good general election candidate, but he needs to get out of his primary. I don't know if he can convince other candidates to be truer to who they are if they actually need to get out of what is apparently a very crowded primary. And so how does one, you know, I don't know what else he could advise them except to say, you have to think a little bit to the future, but I don't know if that's going to work.
Yeah, let's take a look at the latest Fox News poll of the 2016 candidates. You can see Bush there at the top. Romney has not endorsed anyone yet, but he has named a few who he says would be effective presidents. They are Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Scott Walker, and John Kasich. Some of them already polling well. Others, Liz, maybe could use the boost. How helpful is it that Romney's making these positive comments about these four?
Well, look, as you said earlier, Romney has been proven right on some issues, and he's a smart guy. I think everyone who kind of took a look at him and actually read what he had to say comes away thinking he's a smart, thoughtful, very successful person. So, yes, he has a voice out there for sure. Look, I think that, again, particularly on foreign policy, he's going to be distinctly at odds with Rand Paul. He's not going to have much to say to them. But I want to go back to the mistakes he made. One of the mistakes he made was not coming out very early on and defending himself against months of attacks about his background, his business, etc. I don't think anyone's going to allow that to happen again, because people saw, even though, yes, he kind of made a surge towards the end, he never really beat down those initial impressions. Initial impressions are very, very important. So as I look at these guys make their announcements and stuff, I think they're very on the attack. They're almost all on the attack vis-a-vis Hillary Clinton, because she is the presumed candidate. I don't think they're going to let her spend months belittling them and then finally coming in and, kind of going for the kill. So I think the whole way that Romney was defined early on, never really responded. I suspect that is one of the things he would say was a huge mistake.
And I would also add, and it was an interesting point that you raised, one of the things that I think he could do is find a way to get these candidates to not just connect with the base, but also expand their base a bit. In part because I think whether it's Democrat or Republican, voters today are really concerned about jobs and their pockets. And I don't know if he was able, going back to his background, be able to connect his business background with an ability to actually improve people's lives economically. And that's probably something that he can help the Republican candidates do. I know we're doing it on the Democratic side, but if he's going to be a kingmaker, that's one of the ways he can be helpful.
All right, we shall see. Basil and Liz, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
And you can check out foxnews.com for more on the 2016 presidential race. I'm Patty Ann Brown. Thanks for joining us.